Stay up out the way, don't get your issue splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. I feel like I'm JX. J-Way. I'm a perfectionist. Adderall got me restless. I'm gone. Run with a wild crew, they get reckless. Young boy, come up off that neck. Give me that. To the trends. See a lead, be the band.
Welcome to Bleachers and Speakers. I'm your host, June. I got my boy B Foster. Before we get into today's show, and yes, this is a Bleachers to Speakers show. It's not a post-game podcast show. We will do that tomorrow after the game. I mean, before the game. We'll do that tomorrow morning. Since the Pistons play tomorrow, to play tonight, we'll review the game. But we have a draft to talk about, and the Lions do not pick again until the 6th round. So I think it's really good that we talk now. Before we get into this conversation, I want everyone to please subscribe to Bleachers to Speakers on YouTube and make sure you're following us on all the aggregators. That's anywhere you can listen to a podcast. You can find this. With all you have to do is put in Bleachers to Speakers FFSN in your search. You'll see the logo. Make sure you following us. Make sure that notification bell is on. So when we drop content, you'll get an alert and download those episodes. We use those downloads to make sure to see where you're at and see who's watching or listening. And, we try to make sure we keep those areas listening, and we try to target more different areas. So Foster, the first 3 rounds are gone. We're done picking to the 6th. I think for Lions fans, that's the second biggest news. The first biggest news is Shedeur Sanders has not been drafted yet. But I do think he'll go today. I don't think he'll go undrafted. But it's funny before we get into our content, about the Lions, but you made that face and you had every reason to make that face, because if you need a quarterback, you would have drafted one by now. But people have drafted quarterbacks in the 6th round, in the 5th round, in the 4th round. It's happened. Some have been drafted in the 7th. I just think Shedeur Sanders is a better talent than what he's been, than where he's been. Than the 4 of the quarterbacks that was drafted already. I think he's better than those 4. The only one that I think is better is maybe Cam, and that's debatable. But the other 4, the Dylan Gabriel, Jalen Milrose, Tyler Show, or whatever his name is, they're not better than Shedeur. But that's not my business unless we draft him in the 6th round. Foster, would you take him in the 6th round?
Would me as a Lions fan?
Yeah, putting you on the spot.
Why not?
Why not? Right? Can't beat that. Can't beat it. That's a deal. That's a steal. Anyway, the Lions had a draft this weekend starting Thursday, and I think the problem with the draft for Lions fans is, hold on a second. The problem for Lions fans is with that first pick, you got someone that was probably on nobody's mock draft. Like if you did an individual mock draft yourself, you didn't think this guy would be here. You didn't even picture this guy. But with the first pick of the draft, the Lions selected who did they select, Foster?
Tyleik Williams.
And now, we're gonna go. We're gonna put the pictures up. This is how we do here.
That's a big boy.
A mountain of a man there. Okay. Before we get to fussing, now, hold on a second, because I'm getting some other texts. All right. Before we get to fussing. Okay. So me and Foster has talked about potential first round picks. We definitely are saying we needed pass rush help. We definitely said we need interior offensive lineman help. But we also mentioned that we wouldn't be surprised if they went D tackle in the first round. And the reason being is Lee McNeil probably won't be back to around week 10 or 11 at the earliest. You got to remember, he's a big guy. He tore his ACL that late in the season. And it takes about a year to heal from that. And I think week 10, 11 is giving him some grace. Like, he probably won't be back to the last 4 or 5 games of the season. You know what I'm saying? So, you definitely need some help in the interior. DJ Reader, he didn't play all 17 games last year. Let's just keep it a buck. Not the person to play all year. You got Wingo. He's young and kind of unproven. Do I have to speak on Broderick Martin? Can I go? Can I skip past that?
Nothing to say. Nothing too much to say about that.
Okay, so that only leaves Levi, Onwuzurike, Tim O'Connor. You can't be mad at anybody for drafting a D tackle. Now, what the problem is with drafting a D tackle, this was one of the D tackles that wasn't on a lot of us fans' radar. That you had the Harmon from that Pittsburgh got that drafted earlier. You had Mason Graham, a couple of other guys at D tackle, Kenneth Grant. You had a couple other people but those people were gone, right? And if you look at it, this is one of the guys that they interviewed. He was, you're not going to interview anyone that you don't have any interest in. And this was a guy that they didn't have any, they knew about it. They liked him. And we know one thing we know, Foster, Brad is going to get who he wants, regardless of where they're at. He'll trade up to get you if he wants you. He'll trade down if he think you're going to be there. But one thing for sure, if that's who he wants, I put it like this. If Brad was picking at number 2 and they wanted Tyleik Williams, he probably would have traded out of that pick to go get him. He's not going to get, he has his person, his sight sets on his person, and that's the way he's always drafted. Now, there's been people discrediting Brad Holmes and questioning. I question him all the time, so I can't fuss at you guys. I don't agree with anybody that Brad drafts or anything. We talked about this, but I can understand the rationale of drafting D tackle. Foster, what you got to say about Tyleik?
Yeah, I mean, all things considered, you listen to the press conference. I think the press conference opened my eyes to what the thought process was. And when you look at the scouting report, his player comp without any influence of anything else, the comp was Lee McNeil. So obviously Brad Holmes thinks the world of Lee McNeil, and he's going to be out for some time. And when you look at how big this guy is, when you look at his weight, he ranks out as one of the heavier guys at his position in the entire draft. But this guy ran a 4.68, which is
what?
Yes. He ranked in the 99th percentile as far as interior defenders with a 4.68 at that size. So athletically, this guy is off the charts at his position. He's known right now as a run stuffer, but he has the potential. His build is a nose tackle, but this guy has the potential to line up in the 3 technique. On either on the right side of his ability to not just line up over center, but to line up outside of that and be a pass rusher. I don't think the pass rushing ability is there yet, but this guy has the potential to play 3 downs. He interviewed very well with Detroit, which we know is always important. Holmes loved his instinct, his intelligence, but yeah, physically, I think that the biggest thing for Lions fans is that he was kind of I think he was kind of looked at as like, well, we can't get you know, we feel like he was like the third choice out of like a Harmon, a Grant, the list of the top tier guys, and he was more of a projected early second round pick. But at the late first round, if your guy is there, essentially we are a early second round pick. So if your guy is there, you're gonna get him. And I commend Brad Holmes because he's willing to double down and stand on business. If he is if his guy is there, if he rocks with you, he's not worried about the scrutiny. He knows that he's going to get asked about an edge rusher to the point of nausea. They're going to ask him. He's aware of that, and if he's got to leave the draft without an edge rusher, he will, if it's not somebody that he wants.
Yeah. The hope is because put it like this. The hope is that because we don't have another pick until the 6th round. And to get immediate help from the defensive from the edge standpoint in the 6th round is that's a reach. So the hope is that he has a plan in place, and that one of those things is re-signing Zadarius Smith. And they're not going to re-sign him till after the draft. And nobody's going to sign him during the draft. But after the draft, Zadarius Smith will be at a team, and hopefully it's the Lions, and that's been the plan in place. If that is the case, then I can understand why you go this route instead of jumping out there and getting an edge. So we have Mr. Tyleik Williams. What's his measurables again? What's his height and weight? He's a big guy.
Ooh, let me pull it up.
Yeah, because this is a big guy, and you said he ran a 4.68 40. That's a person that can move. I know one of the things they said he had short arms, but he's not an edge. You put those short arm people in the interior. And now he does need arm length for sure, but it's he's a run stopper. The question is, though, people are going to ask. We didn't. They're gonna assume, and they're gonna say we didn't have any problem stopping the rush last year. So why go?
But without Aleem McNeil,
without Aleem McNeil, that's a different story. You seen what Brian Robinson was doing versus Washington. Him and Eckler was running pretty good versus us.
So his measurables, he's 6'3" and 334 pounds.
That's a big guy.
And I think that if I really lined up, stretched out, I'd probably run about a 4.68. This guy can beat me in a race. I don't know.
And you hoop and everything. So you're not out of shape now.
Right.
So that was the first pick. That was our first pick. And the second pick, I'm gonna put that guy right on the screen there. Out of Georgia. The big guy. Now, Foster, this is a pick I was happy with. I was happy with. If you could pull up his measurables, but this guy, one of the things they mentioned when they drafted him, one of the announcers said he played with a bad wheel, and it was a severely bad ankle, but he didn't miss a snap. He endured it. Now, one of the things, we lost Kevin Zeitler, and he was an integral part of that offensive line. Ran pretty good on that side of the line. Ran a lot. Ran the ball and was very successful running on Kevin Zeitler's side of the football, and he's gone. Now, me and Foster agree that Mahogany was one person you could put over there in his place, but it's not bad to have someone else. You know what I'm saying? So what is Tate Rutledge's measurables there for us?
6'6", 320 pounds.
Yeah. Now, if you look at it, look at what the Lions have done in their first two rounds. And I want you to think about grit, right? You enhance the trenches. That's what they did. Now, I'm not a homer. I am disappointed that they didn't get a edge. Very disappointed. However, I can't be mad when they're developing or improving the trenches, because that's where the battles are won. Up front, you control, and I'll say this until the day I'm not on this earth. The team that controls the line of scrimmage wins the game. If you control the line of scrimmage from an offensive standpoint and from a defensive standpoint, you win the game. Right?
Right. And when you look at the notable guys that we passed up on, David Green, passed up on him twice, Landon Jackson, Josiah Stewart, it's pretty obvious they probably weren't on our board at all. These are probably guys.
Foster, they were not on. Like they had.
Wait, did Stewart? Oh, it was Grant. Which one of them actually visited with Detroit? I feel like one of those Michigan guys.
It was Stewart. It was Stewart.
It was Stewart. So
they didn't think Grant would be at 28, which
right. Right. So, you know, I don't know how that meeting went, but it's pretty obvious it did. Is he coming from a Packers perspective or from a
Cheatham, what you want in your personal time has nothing to do with football. You know, he comes from a good family and you can probably hit a home run with him, but no, just keep your desires to yourself there. No. Cheatham, are you talking about, because you see, this is Cheatham, right? And you see this anybody could die person here. That's a battle rap league, and that is our friend DeJuan Cheatham, and he is a Packers and Lions fan. Go figure, right? And so Foster asked him, is this coming from a Packers perspective or a Lions perspective? Because we don't know. He said, I'm angry about it. Fire Goff. Once again, is this from a Packers perspective or a Lions perspective? Because Goff did Packers pretty filthy both times. Anyway.
Yeah. So as far as Rutledge, when you break everything down, he's a, we hope that he's a future predecessor to Zeitler. Obviously, like you said, Zeitler, we had great success with that signing last year. We were able to run to his side with a lot of success. And I think you got a guy in Rutledge who has a lot of experience in a very talented conference. He was a 3-year starter at Georgia. He played in a pro-style offense, so he's very versatile. This is a team that did a little bit of everything. And, he was a second-team All-American in 2023 and second-team All-American in 2023 and first-team All-SEC in his last healthy year. Like you said, he had he played on a bad ankle last year, which held him back. But he's a nice high floor guy. I think that he's a bad ankle away from probably being a first round pick if we're being real. So I think we definitely get some good value. We definitely put a lot of stock into the trenches, and I think that we got a guy that will be able to compete with Mahogany, and he's going to compete on both sides. I think Ragnow is the starting right guard at this point, right?
Ragnow,
or is it Glasgow?
Glasgow. Ragnow's our center.
Right. I get Ragnow and Glasgow.
It happens.
So yeah, he'll be able to compete at both sides, and he'll be, if nothing else, he'll be able to provide some depth to either side at that guard position. But this guy, nice little story. He's got a lion tattoo already, and that's just his, not on a Detroit Lions aspect of things, but that's just something symbolic, if you will. He was known as one of the more physical and intense players, and we all know that just reeks of Brad Holmes and Dan Campbell. So all things considered, when you do your homework, this was a good value pick right there, and we traded up for him, so you already know what that means.
Yeah, I mean, Brad wants what he wants. He's going
Right.
to get his guy by all means. And he said last night that at some point the talent thins out, so
Right.
you get what you want early, and you don't worry about the later draft picks. Let's take a quick break. We've gotten to 20 minutes already, Foster, and we've just skimmed the surface, but let's take a quick break. If you're listening, you're going to hear some wonderful ads. If you're watching, we'll be back in like 15 seconds.
Get your lick back. If a nigga gon' do something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. Get your lick back. If a nigga gon' do something, ain't no.
Okay, now we are back, and there you have it. We have talked about the first two picks, Tyreek Williams and Tate Rutledge. And last night, the Lions traded their third round pick today. Their third round pick from last night and the third round pick from next year to move up from 102 to wait, hold on. That's not what they did.
They traded their fifth. I think they traded a fifth round. They swapped.
They did that for Tate Rutledge. Tate Rutledge, they traded they swapped their thirds and traded away another third for next year to get to move up 32 spots to get Tate Rutledge. Now, what did they do to get this next person while I pull this person up?
What did they do to get to? Oh, I don't know. I don't know what they actually did to get him. They traded up to get him too?
We traded up to get Isaac Tesla.
Okay. Well, neither here nor there. We'll figure it. We'll figure that part out. But
well, you know what? I'm off. I'm off. I think you got Tate Rutledge at 60, right? So I was right. They traded their 102nd pick in the third, and next year's 103rd, next year third round pick to move up to 70 to draft this guy. That's exactly what happened.
Okay.
So let's see. Let's get this guy up here. This guy. Now, Foster, that's exactly they traded 2/3, which was what happened was the Lions drafted at 60 when they got Tate Rutledge, and their next pick, and that was in the second round. So the next pick was in the third round, and they were at the last pick of the third round at 102. So what they did was they swapped the 102nd pick that they had in the third for the whoever team it was to move up to 70, and they traded next year's third round to draft. Do you know how to pronounce this guy's name?
Tesla. Isaac Tesla.
Okay, I'm just making
like the car.
just making sure. We every now and then, you got to go with the times, and you got to upgrade. You got to get a Tesla.
Right.
And that's what the Lions got. And this guy is about. I've heard several different measurables. ESPN had him measured at 6'4", running a 4.3 40, but there's other measurables that says he's 6'3.5" and runs a 4.4 40. Whatever. He's a big receiver that can run, and he's from Michigan, not the college, the state of Michigan. He's from Michigan. He actually played at Hillsdale before transferring to Arkansas. And one thing I can tell you, Arkansas was not very good offensively last year. It just wasn't. But this guy is off the chart as far as the athleticism, as far as speed, as far as size. He's over 200 pounds, so it's not like he's just 6'3" and 170 pounds. This guy is a big guy. He can block. I don't know how his route running is, but I've seen some tapes, and he's always open downfield. Seems to be always open downfield. Foster, what you know about Mr. Isaac Tesla?
All right. So he was a player that caught Brad Holmes' eye at the Senior Bowl. And one of the biggest things about the biggest things for him was his ability to block. Obviously, he likes guys like that. Brad Holmes attests a lot of the success we had in the run to our receivers' abilities to block. But he also likes his versatility. He feels that he's going to be able to play on the outside once he learns how to, get um, off of press coverage on the outside. But I think they really like his raw ability. This guy, like you said, ran anywhere from a 4.3 to a 4.4. Um, he's a taller guy. He's got a nice catch radius. He catches the ball with his hands really well, and he's going to be able to create mismatches for. He's going to be able to create mismatches for smaller DBs, and they said that they wanted to get younger at the receiver position, and I think that they just like that his raw ability to make plays. He's a guy that's not going to have to. He's not going to be asked to play right away, but he has some good potential. He's a guy from Michigan, and he can play in special teams too. I think Brad Holmes likes that about him as well. I saw him. Uh, pro- uh, he was mocked to us in a couple different drafts. So he's kind of been on my radar for a little bit, but I like the name Isaac Tesla. That's pretty slick for a speedy receiver.
Hey man, I like it. I just hope that he's I don't expect him to come in and just be lights out. I mean, that's kind of uh, the receivers he has in front of him: St. Brown, JMO, and Tim Patrick. I can't assume that he's better than any of them. But with a technician, a route running, intelligent receiver like St. Brown, and with uh, Tim Patrick, Tim Patrick, who's very physical. He's a physical wide receiver, and you have JMO with the swag that Tesla can come in and actually learn from those guys. And that's just one of the things when you bring it in. But to do what they did to move up, this guy wasn't picked to be on special teams. Just wasn't.
No.
They have plans for him, and I don't know, Foster. I was kind of kind of disappointed, because there's another guy from Arkansas that was right there, and he got picked a couple picks later. And Foster did a featured player profile on that guy. So, I forgot his name. What's his name, Foster?
Landon Jackson. And one thing that I will say is Brad Holmes, I don't think he puts any stock into the combine. You when you listen to him talk, it's a lot of the intangible stuff, and it's the fit, and he's like, it's not about. He just looks, in my opinion, and maybe I just, from a biased perspective of hearing him talk, I just feel like he's all about the intangibles. Like, you don't measure whether the player can block in the combine. You don't measure toughness in the combine. And I think that Brad Holmes has a picture in his mind for whether or not he can work with us. Like, I don't care if you're 6'7" and run a 4.6 off the edge. Like, do you fit what we want? And if you don't, he's not gonna, because Landon Jackson was right there. I think that what up, Tim?
What up, Tim?
I think that he would have appeased what the media, like the Detroit Lions media, by getting a guy like him. But I don't think he saw him wearing the Honolulu blue and silver. I just can't see it.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at it, I've seen maybe 2,000-3,000 mock drafts,
Right.
and none of these guys, none of them were on it. These three guys were not on any of them, and I didn't even know. Well, yeah, I knew they existed. I'd seen, I knew about them, but they were not anyone that I predicted or anybody else predicted that the Lions would go. Now, the crazy thing about them, let's just talk about the draft as a whole for right now, because if you look at the grand scheme of things, right? Let's say the Lions did go, they got Tyleik Williams in the first round, and people are going to ache and moan because they didn't think much of this guy. But if you go rush in after that, you shut up everybody. Everybody shuts up then because you didn't solidify the defensive line. They just didn't do it that way. They went offensive line after that. And so now, whenever you draft an offensive lineman, it's not a sexy pick. It's not the Ferrari. It's not the dog. It's
what's a dog? It might be a dog.
But they're not looking at it like this. Like, oh, they got offensive lineman. There's no glamour in it, but we know he's a dog.
Literally, it's a bulldog.
Yeah. but we know he can play football, and we know we lost an offensive guard. We lost an all-pro guard. So to go out and get one in the second round, that deserves some kind of credit. And they didn't do anything to get him. He was there at 60. The third round pick is more of a head scratcher because of everything you did to go up and get him. And there were some pass rushers on the board that we all seen and liked and thought and predicted, and there was none of that. And we question it. As fans, we're going to question it. Tim Lyons says it's not always about the sexy picks. Sometimes you got to get those uglies. Tim, I don't have any problem with improving the trenches. I don't have any problem. If that's the direction you're going to go, I don't have any problem with that at all. And I think with Tate Rutledge and with Tyleik Williams, you did that. And you got to remember, the defensive tackle position, it's questionable with Aleem McNeil being not going to be there for more than half of the season. And are you going to depend on DJ Reader? How many games did DJ Reader miss last year, Foster? About 4 or 5?
I think he missed the first game, but overall, I don't think he missed. I could be wrong.
He missed a couple.
Let's see.
He missed a couple.
The interesting thing about mock drafts, because of course, the tens of thousands of mock drafts that fans create are irrelevant, are pretty irrelevant. It's like picking somebody else's girlfriend. It's like, oh, well, why don't you date such and such? And it's like, bro, you don't have to deal with her. You don't have the day ins and day outs and behind the scenes. You only know what you see watching on TV with these players. The one thing about Brad Holmes is he will not appease the public and getting who we think we should have. No. He's gonna get who he feels is gonna be most beneficial with him, because he's gotta pay him and he's gotta deal with him. So the mocks are kind of irrelevant. DJ Reader.
And you know what's crazy, Foster? If you look up all the draft picks since Brad has been in the building, his batting average is pretty high. Tim Lyon says DJ Reader has played 15 regular season games, so he was pretty solid as far as that. No, but I know he did miss a couple games. But you pair DJ Reader with who? Depending on Levi Onwuzurike, that's the second best D tackle we have, and he's had back problems and all kinds of stuff. So So you go ahead.
My bad. The one thing I was gonna say while it's in my head is that we have swung and missed a couple of times at the defensive line because Levi, like you said, has had back issues. That guy was drafted 41st overall. So pretty early in the second round. And last year was his first healthy year. Broderick Martin, we traded up for Broderick Martin. So it's obviously not the easiest position to hit on. And hopefully we can get it right. Obviously, we hit on the Aleem McNeil one.
But he's had my point was he's had more. I didn't say every
batting average,
but his batting average is pretty high as far as hits. It's almost to the point where he probably won't be able to pay everybody that he's drafted and retained, and he's going to lose somebody good. He's going to lose somebody good due to payroll. That's how well he's drafted. So I mean, if you had Penei Sewell, Hutch, Jamo, Gibbs, Laporta, Campbell, McNeil, Branch, Joseph. You know what I'm saying? He's drafted pretty well. And at some point, he's not going to be. Somebody is, you're going. I'm afraid one of these good players that he drafted, he's not going to be able to retain due to payroll. So, with that, you have to take with a grain of salt. You have to trust the process. Now, is he? And he's allowed to swing and miss a couple times because of how well he's drafted. Just the simple fact that he's, because I'm I pay attention to the fan bases. I do. Our fan base is so fickle. You have your Homer Simpsons. Those are the ones that think everything the Lions are doing is right. You have the ones that really hate everything that the Lions do. And then you have the people like myself that does a little bit of both. But I look at the rationale of everything. I try to see things on both sides. Tyreek Williams was not a name on my radar, but it was a position on my radar, so I'm cool with it. Right? Interior offensive line. We needed that. It's the wide receiver position that they drafted and moved up for. That's something that I question, but at the same time, that's somebody Brad wanted.
Are you sure we didn't trade up for Rutledge?
We got Rutledge at 60, didn't we?
I think we moved up with the Broncos like 3 spots for him.
It was 3 spots.
Right.
I think they got him at 57.
Yeah.
So, Brad is going to get who he gets. He wants who he wants. He doesn't pay attention to what we say. He doesn't pay attention to, I think he gets with his coaches. I think they come up with a plan and they draft the way they draft. And they've been pretty good at it. So I'll give them the benefit of the doubt. No, give yourselves, if you're on the fence about it, if you don't agree, just give yourself a few days. Give yourself a week to process it. And you can see now that I will agree. If you really question that third pick, it's a head scratcher. But you look at the height, the speed, the blocking ability, the athleticism. If they put it to use, then we shut up.
Yeah, I mean, how long have we said we need an eventual predecessor to Khalif Raymond or Tim Patrick?
We've been saying that. We've been saying that we needed that other receiver when Josh Reynolds was here.
Right.
We've saying we need St. Brown, Jamo, and Josh Reynolds ain't it. We were saying that.
And we've even picked. I won't say we picked out of the trash, but we went out and got guys like who's the guy from Michigan?
Peoples Jones.
Allen Robinson, was it?
Allen Robinson.
We've been looking for
desperately looking for somebody to fill that other position. We just happened to find it with Tim Patrick.
We really lucked up with Tim
We
Patrick.
got lucky with Tim Patrick, but at the same time, you need a fourth receiver.
Yeah.
You need it. And they got one. They got one with the height, speed, and athleticism that's off the chart. Put it like this, right? With all this talk about J-Mo being gone, right? There were people sick about it. There were fans that were saying, "Why trade J-Mo? Why? Right?" And then, because you need that dynamic on offense, and then you draft someone that can bring that dynamic, and there's an issue. It's crazy. I had this discussion with a couple of people about J-Mo, right? And they were sold on trading J-Mo now. And I said, can you imagine being a new offensive coordinator and you going into the Lions as a Lion, as the new offensive coordinator, and they trade away J-Mo and say, hey, you got Tim Patrick, St. Brown, make it work. Now, mind you, J-Mo is in his fourth year. He still has a full year left. You're going to trade him now? This is my first year. What are you doing? You're going to take my training wheels off now?
Right.
It literally made no sense to trade J-Mo when he's still under contract on the belief that you may not be able to pay him when his contract is up. It's ridiculous. And you see what happened? They picked up his fifth year option. So not only they have him for for 2 more years. And that's not a problem financially for you to worry about in year 4 if you still have him for year 4 and year 5. Why do you worry about that? Anything can happen in 2 years. So you don't make that move now. And it was like you can move up in the draft and you can trade J-Mo and move up in the draft, but you're trading a known commodity for someone in the draft? No, you don't do that. Not with J-Mo. Now, if you have a J-Mo that's only had 300-400 yards receiving every year he's been there and hasn't been as explosive as you'd like to have seen, and you say, hey, let's trade him for a draft pick. I get it. This man's coming off 1,000-yard receiving year, and he's just now hitting his stride. You got to remember, he missed half his first year due to injury. You know what I'm saying? His second year, he missed a few games because of the gambling thing. Last year was his first full year, and he had 1,000 yards. And he wasn't just a flash in the pan, go deep. He was making tight, tough catches and in traffic and getting up from hits and stuff like that. He wasn't just your reverse guy and speed downfield. He was doing everything as a receiver. Tim Lyon said, I keep Williams before I trade him for a draft pick or for what if. Exactly. You don't know what you're getting for a draft pick. You know how many busts come out in the draft?
They like the receivers over in Cincinnati too. They know something.
I mean, they know something over there. They know something. I mean, Higgins, Chase. I don't know if they still have Boyd, but they have Boyd.
Boyd's not there anymore, but Boyd was
Boyd was a viable third option. Like he would have been somebody's first or second.
Ocho Cinco, TJ Hushmanzada.
Man. Tim Lyon says wide receiver is the only pick they get right. Well, Trey Burrows.
Yeah, they got Burrow. They hit that right on the head.
Yeah. I think Cincinnati is going to be one of those teams that are on the rise again.
I mean, they just couldn't stop anybody. If they could stop anybody, they would be Hendrickson.
Well, if you look at it, right, who runs that division? Baltimore, right? And they have the offensive weapons to compete with that. They just got to stop them. I think Pittsburgh is taking a step back this year. And I don't think Cleveland will be anywhere in the running anytime soon. So I'm liking Cincinnati's makeup right now in that division. Yeah, we lost seven. Tim Lyons said we lost 7 games last year by 3 or less points last year. Yeah. You have Burrows. You have all the offensive weapons. You can do a lot with what they're got going on. I think they take a step forward this year because I think Pittsburgh takes a step back. I think they were better. They overachieved last year, in my opinion. I think they overachieved last year, and I think they take a step back this year. I just think so. Tim Lyons says Al Golden is going to change that defense. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Foster, so do you have an overall grade for the draft? Because I've changed my grade twice. And I'm talking about I've changed my grade twice since the actual last pick. Let's break it down. Let me ask you this. All right. Let's do pass fail. Let's make it in. And now, Tylee.
The pass fail is
no, wait, hold on. I'm getting in there. Pass fail on Tyleik Williams. And you know what? That's even crazy now that I think about it, because fail is such a
I mean, to call any pick a failure is kind of crazy.
Not as far as talent, as far as your preference. Let's not talk down on the athlete. Let's just say, as far as your draft preference, was Tyleik Williams a pass fail decision? As far as preference,
I think it's a pass.
I agree. I think it's a pass because of the position itself, and he was not someone out of East Texas State that didn't play any competition. He played at a school where they predominantly were tough in the trenches. So he's a guy. I don't mind. I don't have a problem with them going D tackle first round. Do not. Tate Rutledge. This was the only grade I gave an A for.
I was going to say that. I think that's the easiest decision for a pass.
That was an A.
Or a high grade. Yeah.
That was an A.
Yeah.
Now, the Tesla. Pass fail, Foster. As far as preference, not as far as him.
I would say that's the biggest question mark, because he is a raw talent, and there is development necessary, but he's also a later pick, so it's like there's less pressure on his actual play to come through, I guess. So, but that's C-ish. That's C+-ish, I think.
Yeah, I think the question is, the biggest thing is, the only reason people have a problem with Tesla and going wide receiver is that you have a need to pass rush.
I think that's the only reason any of the picks are going to be scrutinized, is because they weren't pass rushers. I think if we go out and get a guy that's borderline not even on anybody's radar, as long as it said ED by their name, I think they say, all right, well, cool.
I think the Lions still have 2 6-round picks. If they pick an edge in the 6th, you'll see a lot of people's attitudes change. And Foster is gone. But I think the biggest issue with the Detroit Lions in their draft and their fan base is the fact that they didn't address the edge position. And I think if anybody knows they have a problem at edge or at a pass rush, it's got to be the Lions. Like, as a fan, we know what we see. They endure that. They work with that. They know they have rights. They have exclusive rights to the footage. They know if anybody knows they need a pass rush, it's Brad Holmes, it's Dan Campbell, it's the defensive coordinator. So I know we're sitting here fussing, but I have to believe and give them the benefit of the doubt that they have a plan in place, like something. And I'm sorry, fellas. I do think Zadarius Smith will be back. I think he's in the plans. If he's not in the plans, he definitely was, and that was the reason. Now, if something happens to where Zadarius Smith doesn't come back to the Lions, I think it will be a curveball, and that's not what the Lions intended to happen.
I also think I'll read Tim Lyons. Like I tell Bengals fans, calm down, take a breath before we judge. Let's see what it looks like. I mean, the Bengals, they went out and got Knight, I think, that linebacker that we did a profile, and then they went out and got Shamar Stewart, who didn't have great production, but he tested really good at the combine. So they definitely needed defense. So they checked some boxes. But what I was going to say is, honestly, in Brad Holmes' mind, I think that he's a little bit more comfortable at edge rusher than everybody else is. I think that when you think about who we're bringing back, we're essentially bringing back our entire edge room outside of Zadarius at this current moment. But you're going to bring back Hutch, who's a top 3 edge rusher.
Yeah, you're going to be better at pass rush because Hutch is coming back.
You got Hutch coming back. You got Muhammad coming back, who you're going to have for a full year, who played very well down the stretch.
Off season and everything else.
Yes.
Training and everything.
Levi had a great year. Makai Wingo, who you kind of talked about, he's a guy, I think he played inside and outside, but he's a guy that we drafted last year who kind of fell, but I feel like we left that draft thinking that we got great value.
A lot of people said he was a steal. A lot of the NBA experts said he was a steal.
And he proved that in the preseason and early on in the year. He was active and around the ball early on in the season. And then you still bring back Pascal, who's, I think it's getting to the end of the road for him, but he's been pretty dependable despite having he was pretty injury prone in college. But and then Davenport. They obviously believe in Davenport. All things considered, it's kind of an asterisk and a incomplete as far as that's concerned. But just imagine if he actually plays a little bit. I know we got to imagine it because it's nothing that we've seen with our own eyes. But I think Brad Holmes believes in him.
I was okay until you mentioned Davenport.
Hey,
I was really, really okay.
That was before Zadarius Smith got here, that was our opposite edge day one.
I'm ready to go. But hold on, before we get out of here, Foster, I'm going to let you put a bow on this, but I want to remind everyone that we usually do post-game podcasts, which we cover the Pistons on Saturday morning. But we could not pass up doing this draft and recapping the first 3 rounds of the draft. And the Lions don't have another pick to the 6th round. That will be later on. So we decided to do a show today to talk about the draft picks. Me and Foster will do a draft profile on the latter picks that happened today at some point next week. And right now, the Pistons have a game tonight or this afternoon. Not sure what time it is, but they have a game, and we decided to move the post-game podcast for tomorrow so we can review the game. So, and talk about Pistons Weekly. So it'll be Pistons Weekly, but it's just going to be done on Sunday because they have a big game for tonight, and it's crucial. So we decided to do the show after the game. But Tim Lyon says Davenport failed with the Saints. I'm still not in on him. He fell for the Lions as well. I'm sorry. Foster, put a ball on this so we can get out of here.
Not much more to say. I mean, Brad's gonna get his guys. We'll see what he has cooking, but I don't see. I think Jack Sawyer is still out there. Is Jack Sawyer still out there?
Jack Sawyer is still out there. I don't think he'll be around 6th round.
In round 6, yeah. So I'm not holding my breath on an edge rusher. I don't think it's even really worth it. There's really no telling. So we have a 6th and a 7th left.
2 6s and a 7th.
Oh, 2 6s and a 7th. Oh, okay. All right. Well, yeah, there's no telling what we go with these last 2 picks. I think they're just going to go over go get the best available. So I don't have a whole lot that I'm, holding my breath on. I'm more so holding my breath to see where Zadarius Smith is going. I'm a little disappointed, not so much that we didn't get David Green, because it's obvious. They asked him, I don't know if you saw, they asked him, is David Green on your board? And he said, we're not going to disclose. that means no, by the way. But but it's more disappointing that the Ravens get another just freak of nature. I mean, they always tend to be able to get to the quarterback, and it's only going to get more. That's only going to be more so a thing. I kind of thought that he would go to a team, an edgier team like the Ravens or the Raiders.
I thought for sure he's going to be Seattle, Ravens, or Philly. That's how I had him going. Like one of those teams are going to pick
Philly.
him.
Yeah, Philly would. Yeah.
One of those teams is going to pick him up. So once again, thanks, Tim. Tim says, great show. Once again, I want everyone, if you're watching and if you're watching on Twitter or on Instagram, please make sure you go to YouTube. Subscribe to Bleachers and Speakers on YouTube. We're trying to get those subscribers up. And if you don't want to watch and don't have time to watch, you can listen to us. And that's anywhere you can listen to a podcast. That's any audio aggregators. Those are platforms like YouTube Music, Pandora, Apple Podcasts, any place you can listen to a podcast. You can find us. Just type in Bleachers and Speakers FFSN in your search. Make sure that notification bell is on and download the episodes. Foster, we're gonna get out of here. I don't think much will happen later on in the draft. If there's anything that goes like, let's say Brad, and I'm not hoping, I'm just saying, if it happens to where, because we are not scheduled to draft into the 6th round. If there's something that happens where we do draft earlier than that, a trade or whatever, then you'll hear from us again today. You'll hear from one of us, if not both of us, today about that pick. So far, so we'll get out of here. Make sure you subscribe to Bleachers and Speakers on YouTube. I want y'all to enjoy y'all Saturday, and don't trip, man. It's the Lions, man. We were 15-2 last year. We ain't got to have no. Come on, man. We still good. We are still good. You don't have to do much at 15 after a 15-2 season, and without losing a bunch of personnel on
field, anyways.
I mean, and I'm talking about in the offseason. We lost more coaching personnel than we did player personnel. Let's just keep it a buck, right? So from an integral core, we lost Zeidler,
yeah.
Zeidler. That was, but you drafted one, and you also had a guard sitting there mahogany waiting to play. So we're still who we are. You don't have to. You don't have to have an A++ draft to be successful last year. We still got Dan Campbell. We still got the grit. Let's line up tomorrow and play. Fuck.
Right, man. I swear.
Subscribe to Bleachers and Speakers on YouTube.
Get your lick back. If a nigga gon' do something, ain't no chit chat. Better stay up out the way, don't get your shit splat. Stop letting this shit slide and get your lick back. And get your lick back. Get your lick